Eternals is boring. That's it. That's the video. You know what? I honestly feel like even making videos that are obvious takes are just a waste of time, for me at least. But man, Eternals did something to me. After watching that movie, it did something to me. The movie is a different kind of slop. Now, to be honest, back when this movie was announced, I was a little thrown off guard, considering the fact the Eternals had like 50 or 60 issues to their name. But I also just was not excited either, and I think the majority of people can say the same thing. To be fair, the Eternals have just never been enjoyable. The whole obscure mythology heavy thing it's just never been my kind of thing. But I was not worried at all, because the MCU is perfect when it comes to knowing how to make the audience love a character, even characters that people might not have any familiarity with whatsoever. This is what their whole brand is built on. But you cannot say the same with the Eternals. In fact, you can actually say the opposite. They made them even worse. Now, this is the one MCU movie I skipped out on watching for so long, and boy, do I wish I kept it that way. I was going through a rewatch of the entire MCU recently, and when it came around to watch this movie, I really wanted to skip it, but I was like, you know what? Let me give it a chance, alright? Despite movies having tons of criticism, I never let that get in my head, okay? I always tell myself that this movie is gonna be good. Not in a high expectations way, but in a way that I can at least enjoy it to the bare minimum, alright? But the second they threw a whole paragraph in our faces when the movie just started, I walked away and I said, I ain't reading all that. Anyways, yeah, that was a joke, but like in the first 20 minutes, we get introduced to Cersei teaching a class, and then an earthquake pops out of nowhere, and that introduces us to our first mistake of this movie. The fact that the whole world casually has a celestial chilling in the earth. Yes, the same earth, the 616 earth, or whatever earth the MCU is called nowadays. I don't know what it's called. Like, is this not a big deal? Am I missing something? Even watching this and seeing the huge celestial just casually peeping out the surface of the earth, I was literally so shocked, because you would think this would have some major role into the MCU, but nope. Yeah, it just doesn't.
The impact that Eternals will have on the MCU will be nothing less than redefining the cinematic universe entirely.
The only time we get this to be somewhat of a big deal is in Brave New World, and even that movie does a lazy job of trying to explain to us why a giant monster is on the earth, and they just say, yeah, it's just adamantium just chilling right here. Yeah, you cannot tell me this is the biggest cop-out to explain a silly mistake they made. You can so obviously tell this was just not the original plan they had going, and it just looks very compulsive decision making right here.
Let's forget all last time to party. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, you remember what I said? I wish I never watched this movie to begin with. Well, yeah, because if you skip this movie, you really don't miss anything else. There's no significance whatsoever to the rest of the MCU, and I'm actually fine with that in some cases, even when the MCU decides to give storylines for characters that are sort of standalone, but not when you have a celestial in the earth that takes nearly 4 years to ring a bell for other superheroes. Anyways, we get introduced to Icarus, but Cersei's kind of with her side piece here. Alright, so this is a little bit awkward. Except it doesn't really matter who she is with, because she seems to have no chemistry with either of these dudes. There's simply just really nothing to find interesting about the dialogue between these dudes and her, and it just becomes really easy to zone out of these conversations. We get maybe like 1 or 2 scenes of Cersei bonding with Dane, and like a flashback where she's getting freaky with Icarus, but that's about it. In fact, everyone in this movie seems to have no chemistry with each other, and honestly, it just looks like they're all bored out of their minds. You also want to know what's worse than characters with no chemistry? Watching a movie try to make you think they have some kind of chemistry with these annoying flashbacks that are way longer than they should be. They also add minimal to no significance to the story. Because to be honest with you, when it's translated to the present day, they all act extremely disinterested with each other. They just look like they don't even really know each other. Their body language, everything, all that baggage of flashbacks just really do not add up at all. This does nothing but like make the pacing of the movie awful. There's like absolutely no reason this movie should be pushing 3 hours. And the fact it's filled with a lineup of the most dull and boring dialogue, it makes me even more furious. I'll have to give credit where it's due though. Kumail Nanjiani actually looks like he's giving effort, and it's really easy to notice when everybody is really dry and boring. You can tell by his performance he really did care about this role. And that can really be the difference in what makes these movies have enjoyable characters. A lot of the times you notice these MCU movies are played by people that really love playing these roles. I can't even blame the majority of these actors really, because there's nothing much to do with these characters they're given. I also will never understand why they did not just flesh out the one character they decided to kill off in the beginning of the movie, instead of giving us these useless flashbacks that just do nothing for the plot, okay? Or at least make these flashbacks like more reliant on her, at least towards the beginning of the film. You really expect me to care now that you killed Ajax or Ajax? The football club is pronounced Ajax, so that's why I said that. You gave me like 5 minutes of screen time for her, and you expect this to have some sort of impact. Also, I'm not the type to notice small mistakes in movies, so this is saying a lot. The ADR in this movie sucks.
I didn't come to this planet to cower behind walls.
This movie will have scenes where it looks like they're doing a voiceover, and I get that's what ADR is, but it looks ugly, and it looks like it's being dubbed. Anyways, guys, this movie follows the getting the band back together trope, alright? The majority of this movie is them just finding each other, catching up with each other, going through another flashback, fighting a deviant, and then the death of a character that also has no characterization again. Clearly, this movie doesn't realize how weak this writing is, because not only do you do it once, but you do it twice. This is like the most hilarious death ever too. Like, yeah, bro, just gently tilt your head into a resting position like a baby. Awesome. Like, this is just as bad as Talia's death in The Dark Knight Rises. Never mind. It's been a while. So by an hour and 30 minutes into this movie, they're all finally together. Yep, that's 58% of the movie gone right there, folks. There is no reason more than half of this movie should be them finding their old pals to stop the emergence, especially when their beliefs are like all so inconsistent. For one, Fastos has this conversation with Cersei and Icarus, and he talks about his family. He wants to protect them, but he also refuses to help them save the world. What? But he sides with them anyways, and so that whole conversation where Fastos does not make sense at all actually does nothing but waste time again, guys. This is awesome. Then Kingo kind of all of a sudden decides he wants to switch up too, which just makes no sense at all. Wouldn't it make sense for him to stick to the plan? Because he clearly seems to have built the biggest bond with normal people on Earth, humans. All right, what about your friend with the camera you brought along, Kingo? What about him? You're just gonna leave him to die? That's super heroic, superhero tendencies right there. So yeah, then Crow, the group leader of the Deviants, pops up out of nowhere in like the near end of this movie. Where did he come from? Where exactly did he come from, and why are you introducing him this late in the movie? This movie is the definition of avoidable mistakes. Remember when I said how everyone is boring? It's even worse when the movie is clearly trying to give us a main character that is just as boring, if not worse, than the side characters. I genuinely think this movie could have worked without even having a main character. This would have easily gave an opportunity to make the other characters more enjoyable, instead of trying to put so much useless attention on a character they clearly are not trying hard enough to make somebody care about. Ajax passing down her leadership role for Cersei, it just made this movie feel obligated to put so much attention on her. But anyways, we reached the final act. The Eternals save the day. Well, not really. Icarus just kind of sacrifices himself because, I don't know, guilt, failed his mission. I don't know. I also just think it's very funny how Kevin Feige tries to make us think this movie just never existed. They keep non-explicitly telling us how a sequel to this movie won't ever happen. Thank God. Oh, thank you. Some people like to say this could have been a show, which I guess would make sense to get something out of all the characters. Maybe give more personality to these characters. Maybe make them somewhat likable. But I probably wouldn't even bother watching it. Eternals is the one movie where it did what the MCU has never did. Like, the MCU in terms of stories and plots, in these movies, there's nothing that special. And the majority of the time, it's really just mediocre storytelling. But they get away with it by having characters that make you enjoy what you paid for anyways. But yeah, this movie is, it deserves all the criticism it gets. It even deserves more. I've also heard people say that this movie is like underrated. That's just ridiculous. I think underrated might be my least favorite word. People throw that word around like it's nothing. But anyways, guys, Eternals Nearly 3 hours of my life I won't get back. I probably should have just stayed and listened to my gut to just skip this movie, but nope, I didn't. Anyways, Eternals is gonna get a 2 out of 10 from me, and it is easily the worst MCU movie. Yeah.